Oh, good morning, North Rocks. I'm going to be doing my song, my story, a little different. It's going to be called I'm going to go My Story, My Song. Now, to keep the teachers happy in the congregation, I've given this a title, and I'm going to call it Blessings and Best Bits. Trying to think of a song to cover was really hard, and I think a lot of people out there had the same feeling. So I'm going to try and tie in a couple of songs that mean a lot to me, but with one song at the end. Now, from my days at Sunday school, there was a song called Count Your Blessings. There's one line in there that says, count your blessings, name them one by one, count your blessings, see what God has done. Throughout my life, I've been blessed. I've actually brought three blessings along with me here today. My wife Kelly, who is 35 years plus, and we've been married for 10 years now. Time flies when you're having fun. We've been married 20 years in October. I've also got daughter Zoe, who is 15 and a half, and don't forget the half, otherwise she'll get upset. And then there's also Elise, who is 11 going on 21. Actually, next week Elle is going on 12, so I don't know, Steve, does that deserve a chocolate or we wait next week? No, we'll wait till next week. All right. So it's been so encouraging to hear other people's stories. Each are unique, but we all stand here and declare that we believe Jesus died for our sins, and through the resurrection we can live forever with God in heaven. And to that, I want to say just a big shalom. Now, let's start my story. I was born at a very young age down at Parramatta Hospital. And it's a bit of a family joke that once I was born down there, the hospital would turn into a psychiatric ward. And from that sort of joke, you can understand that to live in my family, you had to have a pretty thick skin. I was one of four, but having said that, it was a real blessing to be growing up in a house where my parents were both strong Christians. I was brought up in the Brethren Church, but unlike Anne's story, I was from what we might call the original or the open Brethren. But similar to Anne's story, we were really focused on learning the Bible, family and communion. The church was started as an alternative to the Church of England, and some people call it nonconformist. And I guess that sort of stayed with me. I've always questioned authority. I always encourage people to grab the Bible and read it and make up your own mind about it. Now, a big part of the Open Brethren Church is outreach. Now, in New Zealand, the Brethren Church started a thing called Every Boys Rally and Every Girls Rally. It's very similar to Scouts, but it has a real heavy sort of Christian basing. But there's physical things to do, there was hobbies, and there was a Bible study at the end of every sort of week we met. One of our mottos for the rallies was, remember your Creator in the days of your youth, which is from Ecclesiastes 12:1. I find this still relevant today. When you look into it, I guess it was, depending on where you believe, that book was written by King Solomon, probably one of the wisest people on earth. And it was written, I guess, towards the end of his life. So what he was saying was, when you're young and life's really bright and shiny, just remember your Creator. Now, the reason why I find it still relevant is, as I come in here today, I look around the church here, and there are some people here who are enjoying their second, probably third youth, but they're still coming. One couple of Sundays ago, coming to church and came across Val who had blood pouring from her head, and we just had to fix her up. Val's the most thing Val was concerned about was the fact that she wanted to get her collection money into the church. And that really sums up what I see in this community here at the moment. And then after living in numerous states, including New Zealand, which I think is kind of part of Australia, we settled back in the Hills District and we attended the local church down here at North Parramatta Gospel Church. For me, Sundays involved probably 4 hours of church. It started with Sunday school, then we had a morning service, and then what we called the breaking of bread. Each service was different down there, so we had the opportunity in the church was, the first part was more of an outreach, and then we got a bit more focused on the breaking of bread, so people would come and worship at the breaking of bread. The difference I find with that is that at Steve, it's only got probably half an hour to really get a message across. So I understand that it's really hard for Steve to encourage and outreach all in sort of like 30 minutes. And I really just want to encourage him to keep doing that, Steve. So Sunday mornings for me started out the same. Dad would be downstairs playing on the organ, singing gospel music, and then Mum would be trying to get the lamb roast together for the lunch afterwards. Now, the reason why I mention that was because generally, again, the outreach of the church was, after church, we'd have visitors come back to our house and we'd partake in a Sunday roast. Halfway through the morning, Dad would burst into my room and say, "Get up, this could be the best day of your life." And to that I say, he's correct. And that's the approach I take every day. You never know, it could be the best day of your life, so let's just get up and get amongst it. In 1979, I think some people have touched on it, attended the Billy Graham Crusade at Randwick Racecourse. I was only a boy of 10, I guess. And I'd become a Christian the year before, but travelling along, I still can't work this out because we came from North Para, but somehow the train went over the Harbour Bridge. And the trains, as you know, back in those days were the old classic red rattlers, the windows down, doors open, and it was just full of other Christians from different denominations. It was an amazing time. So we all came into Central Station, got the bus up to Randwick, and just, listened to Billy Graham. So as I said before, I was probably a Christian a year before that, but I just took that opportunity there was just to confirm my Christianity. And then after leaving school, I tried my hand at selling furniture down at Carlingford for Grace Brothers. It was only for a year, and I learnt two things from that. One, I'm not an indoor person, and two, it really interfered with my love of rugby. So I left that after a year. With my rugby, I was fortunate enough to play 10 years of grade rugby for Parramatta, and again I was blessed to be able to play all the grades from first right down to fifth grade. Down there with my older brother, we were able to witness, and with my parents, at numerous times in different ways down there. It was hard, but it was really enjoyable. Also during that time, I completed a degree in physical education, and studying the human body as a Christian is amazing. Every part has a purpose in the body. Now, just quickly jumping back to the boys' rally, I remember one day this bloke came along, he had this watch in pieces, he put it into a jar, and he shook it and shook it and shook it. And he put it aside. Then he kept on with his Bible study. He picked it up again and he shook it and he shook it and he shook it. And then put it aside. And eventually he said, no matter how many times I shake this watch, it's not going to go back together. He said, there needs to be somebody there to create it, to put it back together. And he was saying that's what God has done. He has created the world. And that's always stayed with me, that particular analogy. Also studying PE, there was the health side. So I don't know if you've come across it, but in the health there's a thing called a health triangle. So each side, one side's called physical, one side's called mental, one side's called, well, they have it soul or spiritual. Now they say to be healthy, you really have to have all those three triangles together. So this is what they teach in schools. So they actually admit that you need that spiritual side to say that you're healthy. In this day and age now, they have changed it a bit. They sort of call it more community. They've taken the spiritual side away and just put community. But the basic's still the same. Now, Paul encourages us to race the good race. Coming from a sporting sort of background, I understand what Paul's saying there. I know in today's society we're told not to be competitive, but what Paul is really saying is to do a race, you really got to train. So as Christians, I guess the training side for us is the Bible, prayer, communion here today. So after about 10 years at North Parra, we decided to set up a church over at Quakers Hill, and it became known as the Norwest Community Church. It had its challenges. And the reason why I know this is because my brother and my bedroom was right next to Dad's office. So at 10 o'clock in the evening, you would hear this printer fire up. And it was the old style printer where it just go back and forth, while you're trying to get sleep. Dad would just be printing out the sermons or things for the next meeting. So again, that's why I encourage Steve, because I've witnessed what it's like to try and run a church. You're doing all things, you have to be all things to everybody. So again, Steve, thank you for that. Now, I guess the one thing about my dad was, he's probably the first full-time minister to cruise around in Mercedes-Benz. You might ask how that happened. Well, he used to run a company called Lend-Lease Elevators, and before he retired at, mid-40s, he was going to go set this church up full-time ministry. Lend-Lease were dead scared that he was going to go to one of the opposition elevator companies, so they said, how about we give you a car, Trev, and you don't join up with any other companies? He said, that's fine, I'll grab that. And that's what he did. So we had it for a little while, but obviously it got too expensive to run. Now, I'm also encouraged by this church when you come in, where you've got people like who run it. You have Sue or Steve, Kathy or Jenny. Every meeting they encourage you just to forget about your week's troubles, concerns, and just focus on God, on the Lord. Now to that end, and then as I said at the beginning, my story is about best bits and blessings. I just want to say that as you go out this door here, I'm sure most of you already seen it, there's a sign there on that glass door that says, the best thing of all is that God is with us. Now, I don't know if it's strategically placed that when you enter the church, you read it, and when you leave. So again, it says the best thing of all is that God is with us. And that really sums it up. Now, there's also one more sort of devotion I learnt from my boys' rally days, and I just want to share today. It's to do with the Lord. Now, there is enough evidence out there that says there was a person running around called Jesus back in the day. And the way I've always approached it was that somebody said it comes down to the 3 L's. So with the Lord, you've got to decide whether he was a liar, a lunatic, or the Lord. And that's, I think, in a nutshell, what we have to decide, and everyone here has obviously decided that he's the Lord. Now, getting on to my song. I've sort of chosen two. The first song is we're just going to play it on the screen. The reason why I chose this first one was, as a 15-year-old, I really got into a band called U2. Loved their music, enjoyed their lyrics. And then one Sunday night, we're down at the local church. There was a visitor, and then he actually read out Psalm 40. And I was sitting there, and I was going, I recognise those lyrics. So U2 have a song called 40, and so what they've done is they've literally just taken Psalm 40 and put it to words, or put it to music. Now, again, I've loved U2. I've been to numerous concerts, and it is a powerful sort of witness, because for years, at the end of their concert, they'd always play this song called 40. People would sing along, and you look around, and people who probably didn't really know what they were singing were praising God. So we're going to play that one soon, and then I guess after that one we'll go into the song that I've chosen. Now, the song that I've chosen has already been chosen by Dennis. When he was introducing it, I was sitting there going, I know this song. I know he's going to choose. So, having said that, the song I'm going to choose is called Majesty. The reason why I chose Majesty is, again, for years down at North Para, we'd have youth group meetings and things like that. And so we'd sing our songs out of a song called Songs of Praise, a book called Songs of Praise. Now, in the book Song of Praise, it went up to 205. So between myself and my mate, it was always a bit of a joke that if you were asked to nominate a song, we'd always say 206. And then we'd get to sit there and watch other people who weren't from the church feverishly go through the book and try and find 206 and just look totally puzzled. It served two purposes. One was they didn't really ask us much what our song choice was, and two, it was just a little bit entertaining. However, having said that, the Lord had the last laugh. So again, getting back to my rally days, every sort of 2 years in the northern or the southern hemisphere, we'd come together and have a camp called Arura, which is an Aboriginal name for gathering. This particular Arura was held over in New Zealand, and they just break up. I was in the seniors group, and it was our turn to go into the auditorium and have devotions and things like that. We sung this song, and it was just amazing the hall, it was a big hall, and just to hear this song sort of belted out through the hall, to the point where it just really stuck with us. And then years down the track, Scripture Song introduced Book 2. And then in Book 2, the first one off there was 206, Majesty. So this time we actually would say, what's your favourite hymn, or what can we sing? And you'd say 206, Majesty. And so we're going to sing that together today. And then one thing I'm going to encourage is what my dad used to say, and this one here's for Steve. If you can't sing good, sing loud. So first of all, we're going to just look at the U2 film clip. It's only about 2 minutes. So Psalm 40, and then we'll go into Majesty. Thank you.